So her instructions instruct you to take your zipper, place it face down on this side, lining the edge of the zipper tape to the center, as long as you're not using a real wide zipper. This is the normal width that you would use. It's about 1 inch wide. Anyway, a wider zipper needs to come further in. So what you want to think about is there needs to be about 3/8 of an inch between here and the center of the jeans. And she does a really good job of explaining that in her instructions. I used Wonder Tape. And so I cut a piece of this and I applied it to the side that I'm going to be sewing. I removed the paper piece of it. And now I'm going to line this up with that center line right there. And I'm going to finger press that in place so I don't have to pin this as I sew. Okay. And I want you to notice something here. The zipper is going to be too long up here. That's very typical. And, you know, we will have to cut this down or use pliers to remove the teeth before we put our waistband on, but that's a very common practice. This zipper stop right here is very important. I want to keep that in the bottom part of my jeans. The jeans are designed to fit pretty snug, so this keeps your zipper really strong. So don't cut your zipper off from the bottom on a garment like this, okay? So anyhow, I've got this in place. Now I need to move this like this, because I want to sew this only to the fly area here. I don't want to sew it down to my front. So now I'm going to bring this over to my sewing machine. Okay, now I just installed my zipper foot, okay? And so this zipper foot has built-in, it's designed for built-in dual feed. And I also moved my needle all the way over to the left, and I'm using a regular straight stitch, and I want my length to be, I'm going to put it about 3, okay? So I'm going to sew along the edge. After you put a zipper in a pair of blue jeans, you'll understand why you don't want to put a new zipper in an old pair of blue jeans. There's a lot of steps involved, but it's not hard to do. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this back, and I'm going to top stitch this. So while you're looking at that, I'm going to grab another pair of blue jeans that I made so that you can see what my where I am in the project right now. So this is the part that I'm actually working on right here, okay? So now I'm going to move my needle all the way over to the right, and I'm going to top stitch, but when I top stitch, I have my length set at 3.5. I'm using the triple stitch. Okay, so now I have that sewn in. Now I'm going to come over, lay it flat, and I'm going to move this out of the way. Now I want to sew this side in, okay? So just to show you how I did that again, I've got it laying really flat, okay? See that? I want to attach my zipper to the other side. So I'm going to go back to a regular straight stitch, and I'm moving my needle all the way to the left because I want my stitches to be between my teeth and my zipper foot. And then I'm going to put a second set of stitches right on the end here. Okay, so now I'm going to lay this flat. And the pattern itself came with a guide to a top stitching guide. And I am going to attempt to, I cut the top stitching guide out of freezer paper. I'm going to iron that on there, and I'm going to use that to help me know where to sew. So prior to doing that, I'm going to change my foot back to my clear foot. I'm going to go back to top stitching. And my top stitching, I'm using a 3.5 length, and I'm going to go ahead and go to the ironing mat, and I'm going to iron this down. I don't know if you've ever used freezer paper before in sewing, but the nice thing about it is it just kind of sticks there but doesn't leave a residue. So this is the pattern piece right here, and this is just a guide to show me where to do my top stitching. So the instructions are going to instruct me to top stitch right here, and then to come in 1/4 inch on the inside and top stitch again. I'm also kind of checking in here. I can feel where my zipper stop is. I want to make sure I don't hit that with my sewing machine, and I'm not going to because it's right there. So let's go back to the sewing machine. We'll do our top stitching. And I've got my length set again at 3.5 millimeter. And I'm basically lining up the edge of this paper with the center marking and my presser foot. Coming around the curve is kind of tricky, so I tend to slow down because on a triple stitch you stitch a full length backwards. If you turn too abruptly, it's noticeable. So when I get to a well-pronounced curve, I tend to raise my presser foot and lower it some as I come around. And I back stitch just inside that top stitching area. Anyway, freezer paper is a pretty cool little tip, right? So if you look here, you can see how straight my stitching is. So I'm going to change my foot back to my 1/4 inch foot because I want to stitch 1/4 inch in there, which I want to double check though, make sure it'll even work, because sometimes your zipper pull is in the way and it may not let me. I'm going to go back to the zipper foot on this one. Okay, so using my zipper foot. So I'm just finding a spot on my zipper foot as a guide so that I know that I've got a parallel line of stitching going on here. again, as I come to well-pronounced curves, I use my presser foot up button, and I move my presser foot up. And it's mainly because I'm doing this triple stitch that I want to do that. So interesting thing about top stitching is it looks great, but it doesn't look so great if you have a hard time with that curve. So sometimes this is something that you want to practice, and this actually looks better on my sample than it does on some of the jeans that I've made in the past. Okay, the next step is to work with, just stay right there, the fly shield. So the fly shield is the part of the blue jean that is against your body so that the zipper isn't scratching your body. Makes sense? So it just shields you from the zipper. So if you think of it that way, I think that that might be helpful. So we need to prep the fly shield. And the way we do that is, let's get a regular presser foot back on here. And let's get our foot back to the center. So you fold your fly shield right sides together. You sew a 5/8 of an inch seam across the bottom. You cut about half that seam out of the way and kind of clip it at the corner. Then we're going to turn this right side out. We're going to press it, and we're going to serge this edge. Actually, you could use the serger to attach it to the pant itself. So I will show you that technique also. So I've got the back right here. And if you follow her instructions pretty exact, this step will make a lot of sense to you. So there's enough room here for me to actually use my serger to attach this. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to line this up. I recommend that you don't bring pins to the serger. And I'll go ahead, and this could have been done all in one step. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this over to the serger. Otherwise, you can sew this on, then zigzag it, because you really do need to finish the edge. And I'm going to let myself cut a little bit of that off. I'm getting this out of the way. No matter what you do, you have to finish this seam. So whether you're zigzagging or serging. Okay, let's go back to the regular machine. So this is the inside. Okay, the next step is sewing a bar tack. So a lot of machines have bar tacks as a safe stitch in them. So this machine does. And it's in my utility stitches. So if you're sewing on a Bernina, for example, your utility stitches, this is a symbol for utility stitches. And that's true on other brands. This is a symbol for decorative stitches. This is letters, obviously. These are buttonholes. But a bar tack is a utility stitch. So I'm going to open my screen up here and scroll down, and that's my bar tack. If you are uncertain about that stitch, you want to you want to stitch it out first on something else, so a scrap first. So I'll just show you what it looks like. So I'm just stitching it out on a scrap first, because there are a couple of stitches that might look like that. It's just a little bar tack, and it's used in a lot of garment work, so it holds things down for you. So you can feel right here where that stop is. Opposite the stop, I'm gonna stitch a bar tack in. And then you put one at the bottom too. So the purpose of those two bar tacks is they hold this in place. Okay. You don't want to sew this down. So my zipper is in. The last thing I need to do is remove my basting stitches. So again, the basting was long stitches. And by the way, one of the reasons I love to use this isocord thread for garment work, if you ever have to pull a seam out, it comes out so easy. Silk thread is also an ideal thread to use for basting work because it's monofilament and you can just pull it out real easily. So anyway, so I'm going to pull out my basting, and remember I backstitched down here at the bottom of this area, so I'm not going to compromise my seam at all by doing this. Pull out my threads, get them all out of the way. There's actually another really fun little tool. I have these little miniature, they're called lint rollers. And mine's across the room, so I'm not going to go grab it right now. You'll get dizzy following me. But when you're having a seam rip, you just roll it right on. It pulls all your little loose threads up, and it's just really, wonderful. Okay, my zipper is done. Look at that, it's beautiful. Trim off your threads. So when I get the rest of the jeans sewn together and I get ready to put my waistband on, the zipper will come down and you will actually cut some of these teeth off. And I usually leave one tooth on the waistband side of the zipper. With pliers, you can pull these off, but it's actually really difficult to do. But anyway, so that concludes the blue jean zipper. I suggest practicing. Cut yourself a couple of practice pieces like I did here and just get really comfortable with it. And I do recommend this pattern. Her instructions are so well written, and I just don't think you'll make mistakes. Thank you.